The soundstage clock is the first thing people remember. 2:17 a.m., glowing above the bay door on a Hollywood lot, while a Panavision camera sits like a loaded instrument, and a video assist monitor throws cold blue light across a tired crew. According to accounts from people who were there, Michael Jackson is not at the monitor the way a pop star is supposed to be, waiting for playback, protected by handlers. He's standing in the director's pocket with a headset in his hand, the talkback button pressed, eyes fixed on the frame like it's a courtroom exhibit. The turning point object is small and ordinary. The clapboard. The assistant director raises it, ready to slate the take, and Michael's hand cuts through the air. One sharp glove gesture that stops everything. Not a diver pause. A director's stop. The room freezes because that single motion threatens the whole chain of command. The schedule, the budget, the label's control, the crew's patience, the star's own image. One wrong call here doesn't just waste film. It rewrites who holds power. "Don't slate it," he says, reportedly, voice quiet enough that the headset does the work. He steps forward and taps the monitor with 2 fingers, right on the edge of the frame, where a light stand is barely visible. That, out. And the camera needs to live lower, like it's listening. It's not a request. It's blocking, lens choice, intention. In that instant, the crew isn't watching a performance. They're watching someone seize authorship. Days earlier, the world around him had rules, written and unwritten, and they were not designed for a black artist to be the final authority over a multi-million-dollar image. The rulebook lived in conference rooms with smoked glass, in label memos and insurance clauses, in the quiet fear of executives who saw MTV as a gate and budgets as a leash. A music video could be just promotion, until it became a short film that changed how audiences measured ambition. The higher the stakes, the more people insisted on controlling the steering wheel. A call sheet, according to some insiders, had been circulating with names stacked like a hierarchy. Director, producer, label rep, choreographer, cinematographer. Michael's name sat where it always sat. Artist, talent, the product. But the product had a mind, and the mind had storyboards. People close to the production have claimed he arrived with a binder thick with sketches, camera angles, lighting notes, emotional beats marked like music. Not the vibe of a singer showing up to hit marks. The vibe of someone trying to build a world and refusing to rent one. The pushback didn't come as a scream. It came as polite language sharpened into a blade. In a production office lit by fluorescent panels, a label representative, tie loosened, coffee in hand, leans over a contract page and points to a line about creative approval. "We already hired a director," he says, according to accounts. "You can collaborate, you can suggest, but you can't run the set." The paper is the weapon here. Ink as authority, a signature as a fence. Michael doesn't argue like a musician begging for extra takes. He argues like someone who understands that an image is a lifetime sentence. He slides the storyboard binder across the desk, the pages fanning open to a sequence of frames. Close-up to wide, shadow to flare, isolation to explosion. "This isn't coverage," he reportedly tells them. "It's a story." And then the quiet threat that makes the room colder. If the story isn't his, the audience will see it. If the audience sees it, the myth cracks. And once a myth cracks, everyone bleeds. On the lot, rehearsal becomes the battlefield before cameras ever roll. Tape marks on the floor, little crosses and arrows dictate where bodies land, where light hits cheekbones, where the camera can breathe. The choreographer calls counts. The cinematographer checks exposure. The director, officially hired, name on the paperwork, tries to keep the rhythm moving. Then Michael steps in and changes a single count, a single pivot, and suddenly the move isn't dance anymore. It's meaning. He doesn't just want people to watch him. He wants them to feel trapped with him, freed with him, accused by him. A crew member, in some retellings, mutters near the grip truck, eyes on the overtime clock. "He's gonna direct it, isn't he?" Another answers without looking up from coiling cable. "He already is." The anchor detail is the cable itself, thick, black, stretching across the concrete like a vein. Everyone is connected to the same machine, and machines don't like sudden new hands on the controls. The real tension arrives when the set fills with suits. Not creative suits, money suits. They appear beside the monitor, behind the director's chair, near the producer's walkie-talkie, pretending to be invisible while watching everything. One holds a folded budget report. Another flips through the shot list with a pen like a judge tapping a gavel. Their presence changes the air. Now it isn't just a music video. It's a referendum on whether the artist is allowed to be the architect. That afternoon, according to accounts, a meeting is called in a small trailer that smells like paper and stale cologne. The official director sits on one side of a tiny table. The producer sits at the head. The label rep stands, because standing is a way of claiming height. Michael sits last, calm, a pair of sunglasses on the table like a shield he doesn't need yet. The producer clears his throat and puts the ultimatum into plain language. "Tomorrow, we shoot." One voice calls action. If it isn't the director's voice, the insurance gets nervous. If the insurance gets nervous, the plug gets pulled. The sunglasses stay on the table. Michael's fingers rest beside them, not trembling, not pleading, measuring. The room waits for the answer that decides whether the crew works, whether the story lives, whether the system wins. He finally looks up and gives the kind of response that doesn't sound like rebellion until it's too late. "Then tomorrow," he reportedly says, "make sure the right voice is heard." By the next morning, the call sheet feels like a peace treaty that nobody trusts. The location is the same Hollywood lot, but daylight makes the tension uglier, less romantic, more corporate. A camera cart rolls past a row of dressing rooms, and the turning point object changes shape. Now it's the director's chair itself, canvas stretched tight, name printed across the back like a claim deed. The official director's name is there in block letters. But a second chair appears beside it, blank at first, like someone left space for destiny to sign in later. At 9:06 a.m., the first rehearsal begins on the main set. According to accounts, Michael arrives early, before the crowd, wearing a simple jacket and the kind of focus that makes conversations die mid-sentence. He walks straight to Video Village, not to makeup, not to catering. He stands behind the monitor with the cinematographer, watching the lens test like it's a confession. The crew notices because stars don't do that. Stars save energy for the camera. Directors spend energy before the camera ever sees them. "The light's too honest," he reportedly says, pointing at a harsh key that flattens the mood. "It needs to be dangerous." The gaffer looks to the official director first, out of habit, out of survival. The official director hesitates, then nods. Flags go up. Diffusion shifts. A shadow slides across the set like a curtain. A tiny change, but it's the first step in a takeover that doesn't announce itself with violence. It announces itself with results. The next night, the escalation moves from lighting to blocking. A choreographed sequence is laid out with tape marks, white strips on the floor that dictate where Michael lands on the beat. The assistant director calls out the plan. "We'll do a wide master, then mediums, then hero close-ups. Keep it moving." The anchor detail is the shot list in the AD's hand, pages clipped to a clipboard like law. The schedule is tight. Overtime is a threat. Every extra take is money. Michael watches the run-through once, not twice. Once. Then he walks onto the marks and starts repositioning people with the precision of someone arranging chess pieces. 2 steps left, he tells a dancer. Don't look at me. Look past me, like you're afraid of what's behind my shoulder. He moves a background actor by a foot and changes the entire emotional geometry of the frame. Reportedly, someone in the crew whispers, "He's directing faces." That's the difference. A performer worries about their own face. A director worries about everyone's face. At rehearsal, the official director tries to regain footing with polite authority. "Michael, let's keep the notes coming through me," he says, according to accounts. It's not said like an enemy. It's said like a man trying to keep his job without losing his dignity. Michael turns toward him, not with aggression, but with something colder: clarity. "We're on the same side," he reportedly replies. "But the camera isn't on your side or mine. It's on the truth." The anchor detail is the lens itself, glass staring back like an unblinking witness. That morning, the suits return. 2 label representatives and a finance person hover behind Video Village, talking in low tones about coverage and deliverables. The producer checks the clock every few minutes like it might explode. A production assistant brings a stack of release forms. Paper keeps arriving because paper is how the system asserts control. Michael doesn't argue with the paper. He simply outperforms it. Step by step, the escalation becomes undeniable. First step, he calls for a camera move that isn't on the shot list. A dolly track is laid where none was planned, metal rails clicking into place. The key object is the dolly itself. Heavy, industrial, expensive. The crew looks to the official director. The official director looks to the producer. The producer looks to the label rep. And in that triangle of hesitation, Michael steps in and says reportedly, "We need to float into it, like the audience is being pulled." The grip team exchanges a glance, then starts building, because the request makes sense. And on a set, sense is a kind of authority. Second step, he changes the edit before it exists. At the monitor, he starts calling out sequences like a film editor. After that close-up, we cut to the wide, then back to the hand. He points to a gesture, 2 fingers tightening on a prop, a tilt of the chin, that he insists must be captured. The anchor detail is the gesture itself. A hand, a breath, a micro-expression. He's directing the invisible, and invisibility is where legends are made. Third step, he redefines performance as story. A backup dancer asks a question about a move. Michael answers with narrative. "You're not dancing," he reportedly says. "You're warning them." The dancer nods, and the move changes. Suddenly the choreography has threat. The crew feels it. The monitor feels it. A sequence that could have been glossy becomes tense, cinematic, like something that belongs in a theater, not just on TV. Fourth step, he takes the headset. This is where the room tightens. The headset is the object that turns air into command. It links the director to camera, to sound, to the assistant director, to the entire nervous system of the set. According to accounts, Michael reaches for it casually, as if he's always worn it, as if it belongs to him by natural law. The assistant director stiffens. The producer's eyes flick toward the suits. The official director's hand hovers, unsure whether to stop him. "Michael," someone starts, half warning, half plea. He doesn't snap. He doesn't shout. He just puts it on. And then he does something that, by some accounts, shocked the entire crew. Not because it was rude, but because it was flawless. He speaks into the talkback and gives direction with surgical clarity. "Camera A, hold that frame. Don't chase. Let it breathe. Sound, stay live. Don't cut the room tone. Everyone, quiet, on set." The anchor detail is the phrase, "quiet on set," usually reserved for the official authority. Coming from him, it lands differently. Not like a celebrity play acting, like a director who knows exactly what silence costs. A label rep steps forward, reportedly, voice tight. "We can't have—" "This isn't how—" Michael turns slightly, not removing the headset. "Then fix it," he says, according to some insiders. 2 words, delivered without heat. The meaning is brutal. Fix your paperwork, fix your fear, fix your need to control. Because the set is already moving under a new gravity. That afternoon, a closed-door meeting erupts again in the same trailer. The producer lays out the stakes with numbers this time. If we go over schedule, we blow the budget. If we blow the budget, the label will blame you. If the label blames you, they'll cut support. They'll call you difficult. They'll say you're not a team player. The anchor detail is the word difficult, a coded weapon often used against artists who demand power. Michael listens. Then he points at the storyboard binder, still on the table, pages worn now from constant flipping. "This is the team," he reportedly answers. "The story is the team." The official director sits back, jaw set, realizing the truth. The battle isn't about ego. It's about authorship, about who gets to decide how history looks when it replays. And then comes the cliff edge, the moment the system tries one last time to yank the wheel. A label executive, according to accounts, places a contract addendum on the table. 1 page. Clean. Cold. It says creative decisions flow through the hired director. It says final cut approval sits elsewhere. It says in polite language that Michael is the face, not the mind. The pen is placed beside it like a loaded question. Night drops over the lot again, and the soundstage clock clicks toward 11:43 p.m. The bay door is half open, letting in a strip of streetlight that looks like a blade across the concrete. The key object is still the headset, now resting around Michael Jackson's neck, while the Panavision camera sits on a dolly, track aligned straight as a vow. The crew is in position, but the air feels like a verdict. Either the system keeps its rules, or the rules get rewritten in front of everyone. "Pictures up," the assistant director calls, voice echoing off the rafters. "Quiet." The anchor detail is the red tally light on camera A, dark, waiting. The official director stands near the monitor, hands folded, trying to look calm. A label representative hovers behind Video Village with a folded call sheet, eyes on the overtime clock like it's an enemy. The producer clutches a walkie-talkie, thumb resting on the push-to-talk button, ready to summon order if chaos breaks loose. Then Michael steps into the director's pocket, exactly where the authority lives, and reaches for the clapboard. Not in a playful way, in a way that makes the assistant director freeze mid-motion. According to accounts, he takes the slate with both hands, looks at the camera lens like it's a person, and says, "This is the first frame." The turning point object is the slate itself, suddenly upgraded from a tool into a throne. The official director moves 1 step forward. "Michael, we can't—" he starts, reportedly. The label repy cuts in, sharper. "Your talent. You can't call the set." The anchor detail is the word talent, spoken like a cage. Michael doesn't raise his voice. He raises the headset microphone to his mouth, 1 small click, and speaks into the talkback so the whole set hears him at once. "Roll camera." It's a clean command. No tremble. No apology. Camera rolls. The tally light flips red. The crew reacts the way crews react to competence. They obey. A camera operator answers, "Rolling." The sound mixer says, "Sound speed." The anchor detail is the word speed, confirming the machine is moving. The assistant director hesitates, then, according to some accounts, calls "mark it," because the take is already happening, and refusing to slate would be like refusing gravity. Michael lifts the slate, but he doesn't clap it immediately. He holds it in frame for a beat longer than expected, eyes fixed on the monitor, checking the composition like a painter checking a stroke. Then he claps it, sharp, final, and snaps it out of frame. "Action," he says, and the set crosses a line it can't uncross. The shock isn't theatrical. The shock is procedural. A pop star has just done the thing that belongs to directors. He has started the world. A crew member reportedly lets out a short laugh under his breath. Not mocking, more like disbelief. The label rep steps forward again, mouth open, and the producer blocks him with an arm like a bouncer. The anchor detail is that arm across a suit jacket, a physical barrier between money and moment. Because once film is rolling, stopping it isn't just a decision. It's a confession that the wrong person has power. Michael directs like someone who's been directing in his head for years. "Hold that," he says into the headset as a performer shifts slightly. "Don't cheat the emotion." He signals a camera move with 2 fingers, and the dolly glides forward, smooth as a breath. The key object becomes the monitor, where the image sharpens into something more cinematic than expected. Danger in the shadows, story in the silence. The official director watches the screen and, according to accounts, does not interrupt, because the frame is working too well to argue with. When the take ends, Michael doesn't bask. He steps to playback and points at one detail, one glance, one hand placement, one beat that lands late, and says, "Again." The anchor detail is the single word, "again," the director's hammer. Some crew members groan quietly because it's past midnight, but nobody storms off, because the request isn't vanity, it's precision. The second take is faster, tighter, and when it lands, the set goes still in that rare way people go still when they know they just witnessed control. By 3:12 a.m., the label representative is on the phone near the bay door, voice low and furious, reportedly using words like liability and insurance. The producer stands nearby, staring at the shot list, realizing half of it has been rewritten in real time. The anchor detail is the rewritten shot list itself. Scribbles, arrows, new notes, evidence that the plan was never the boss. The person with the vision was. The next morning, the trailer meeting feels different because the footage exists. A video cassette, according to some accounts, a rough playback tape, sits on the table like a hostage and a trophy at once. The suits watch in silence. The official director watches too, face unreadable. The key object is the pause button, pressed repeatedly on specific moments, Michael shaped. A camera drift here, a shadow cut there, a beat that makes the performance feel like narrative instead of product. Nobody says, "You were right." Systems rarely admit that. Instead, the language shifts into compromise. Let's define roles. Let's streamline approvals. Let's keep communication clean. The anchor detail is the word define, a late attempt to draw borders after the land has already been taken. Reportedly, someone higher up says, "We can't have that happening again." But the footage makes the response obvious. They also can't afford for it not to happen again, because this is what greatness looks like when it demands control. Within the week, according to insiders, the story spreads the way set stories always spread, through grips, through editors, through choreographers, through the quiet network that remembers who really ran the room. The myth changes shape, not just Michael the performer, but Michael the architect. The turning point object remains the slate, because that's what he grabbed when he grabbed the narrative. The thesis proves itself in the only language Hollywood respects, the frame. And that's the real scandal expose at the center of it. No police lights, no courtroom drama, just a battle over authorship where the weapon was a headset and the consequence was history, looking different from that night forward. The crew wasn't shocked because he wanted control. They were shocked because he took it, cleanly, in front of the people who thought contracts were stronger than vision. The brutal truth sits in the red tally light. Once it turns on, the story belongs to whoever dares to call action.